greater emotional connection than those triggered by other senses. From some Tumblr somewhere. And I went, okay, what is an example of somewhere where I've got a really, really vivid memory? And I remember my first journey to the United States. And it was because when I went to New York for the first time, I had a new array, a new world of fetid, disgusting garbage smells opened up to me in the New York City. And I thought, this is brilliant. I should totally work with this. So what were some of the other incidences of smell-related memories? And I got to thinking, but first I thought, well, what's smell going to do for me as a player? What can I do with smell that I couldn't do before? And I thought of Sherlock Holmes. I thought, now there's a guy who's got some serious chops when it comes to smell. If I were a player, if I were doing this for the first time, I would probably want to have a superhuman sense of smell. And I thought of Sherlock and his constant ability to detect there used to be a touch of formaldehyde somewhere in this massive array of petri dishes. And I thought that would be perfect. I'll make a game based around you being Sherlock Holmes, where you've got a sense of smell every bit as acute as his, with his 75 plus distinct odors, odors of perfume that he can detect. It would have to play a little like L.A. Noire. You would have to walk around in an environment, you would have to pick up the sense of things that have happened before, and you would have to piece them together and figure out who the killer was. Then I realized there's a problem. This peripheral that we're talking about has you being able to detect senses of smell directly. I'm going to go ahead and wager that no one in this room quite has Sherlock Holmes' sense of smell. If you detect an odor and then later on detect that exact same odor and it's one of 75 different perfumes, you, the player, would have to be every bit as good as Sherlock himself if you were going to pull this off. No one is that good. So the solution would be that when you detected a smell, a little helpful hint would come up on screen and say, great, the smell you've just detected is Chanel number 5. Problem being, that's just robbed the entire game of the purpose of the peripheral with a sense of smell in the first place. If it's going to come up and tell you, then what is the purpose of the odor other than a little bit of, floral aesthetic niceness? And so I scrapped the entire idea, and here's the actual presentation. This was the other United States smell-based incident that was the most fond to me. So, Virtual E3 Booth Architect Simulator 2015, the game. First of all, we have a whole bunch of people. Now, for the purposes of this presentation, I want you to think of people like machines, into which you feed gameplay, wonderful experiences, popcorn, hot dogs, exclusives, photo ops with Cliffy B, whatever else, and out of which pour money and odors. It's an isometric game, and each of the little tiles is going to have a sense of smell based on whichever odor is the most prominent in that square. So the odors will fly off people in real time as little particles, and they'll give off and they'll bounce around your booth, and your task is to try and capture and channel those odors in such a way as to get them the hell out of your booth as quickly as possible. It's an iPad game. The way it works is, the sense of smell has no feedback outside of what you can see on the screen already. So you smell your iPad to tell what the smell is like in any given corner of your booth. So we start with the people's needs. Now, they need to be happy. These things here all combine to give them an overall sense of happiness. They have flexible traits that are constantly in a state of flux, hunger, thirst, and excitement, and all that kind of thing. And if you give someone a moment of pure excitement, like let's say, for instance, they're on stage at GCAP in front of a random bunch of strangers pitching a really dumb idea, that's going to make them sweat a lot. And then you've got the inflexible traits, the character traits, entitlement, how frustrated they're going to be with long lines, sweatiness, which can go up over time, I'll get to that in a second, and sensitivity to some of the things you might have in your booth. But you start with this. This is a fresh patch of E3 land. You can smell it. It smells like new carpet. It's wonderful. However, the people come. So here we go. Here's the first thing that we've built. This is a small enclosed space in which you're going to get some hands-on time with the game. Brilliant! People wait in line, and you decide where the entry and exit points are, and while they're waiting in line, their excitement plummets. Their excitement goes way down. The thirst, however, goes up, as does the hunger. You need to be careful of this stuff. But we need to attract people to our booth in the first place. And that is where you'll need a big ass stand, major thing like this. So here's the company logo. It attracts people, but it emits heat and noise, causing people to get a little bit hotter and a little bit more frustrated. You can have a big stage like this, where you can give presentations, or you can do cosplay competitions. And I think cosplay people smell wonderful. So they improve the smell of your booth just by having them there. Next up, we've got fans and air conditioners. On the left-hand side, you can see an air conditioning unit that pushes the smell out of the enclosed area. Smells will bounce around inside there for ages, so you'll want to do that well. But a really expensive air conditioner can send it further, so you can directly output it onto your neighbor's stand. These things are cheap and effective, and they'll blow odors in all kinds of directions, but they're a little hard to predict. Next up, we can put a multiplayer area in the top left-hand corner. Multiplayer is good, but even more high stress. You're competing with people. You're going to get way more sweaty playing something like that. And you'll also want to be careful where you put your exit points. If you have someone just walking off the back of your booth, you'll want to draw them back in. So a popcorn stand can do that, and that's good, but it doesn't make people quite as full as, say, a hot dog stand. But a hot dog stand has onions, and onions make people gassy. So, again, this is not a good smell. You can tell when you've got too gassy a crowd, and that's a bad thing. VIP rooms to keep the entitled people happy. You can have free play IDUs, but be careful if you're playing in public. That's also very, very stressful. And if you stress people out, they will sweat more. And here are your competitors. Ubisoft, Slack Division, Take 13, the rest. Ideally, you are funneling all of your horrible odors that you're smelling through your iPad into your neighboring competitors. So I leave you with this inspiring quote I found during my early research. The first condition of understanding a foreign country is to smell it. Let's let everyone understand what gamers really are. Let's let them smell us.